What is up, Shadowverse soldiers? Before we get into the video, I wanted to let you guys know that I am now doing webcam locals. We're going to be hosting it on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you're in the Shadowverse community Discord, and everyone is welcome. So the link is in the description. I will hope to see you guys on Thursday. What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. So today we have Forestcraft, the Forestcraft list, and it's got some of the new upgrades in it, and I'm so very excited to go over with it. And Forestcraft is one of those decks where it's like, hey, it has the utility to do everything that it needs. It has the bounce, it has the recursion, it has the hand size, and then it also has the burn that if you need it, and the storm followers. So Forestcraft has a little bit of everything, but unfortunately it is the bastard child out of all the crafts. So it doesn't have the best cards, but if you put all the cards together in Forestcraft out of all these sets, you could probably make something work. And another thing I like about Forestcraft is, there's always going to be that one or two Forestcraft players that are going to go to that regional or going to be in that, store championship that you don't know what's going to happen, because as soon as they put down their Forestcraft leader, you're like, all right, what the hell are they going to do? And after a couple of turns, you'll figure out what they're going for, or if you don't, then you're sitting in a bad spot. But usually you should get a handle of it after a couple of turns. But let's go ahead and get into the deck. Alright, so the first card we have is Bellringer. If it's like a staple in like every deck, especially if it's going to be in control. You don't want to get wiped out against aggro, that being Swordcraft or Abysscraft, or even, Dragoncraft if they're even doing it. You don't want to get wiped out. So having a Bellringer, at least, at least two of, but you always want to have three just in case. It's just a ward, the one drop, you draw a card if it dies. It's just too good. Then we have Elfchild May. So, with Forestcraft, there's just going to be a lot of bouncing. So with Elfchild May, you're going to be playing her for one, you're going to ping something for one, you bounce her back to your hand, you're going to ping something else for one. So she's very good, she's good removal. She's going to ping things multiple times if you let her. So that's what she does. Elfchild May is very good in terms of a one-drop removal. Then we have one of the new one-drops, the Shinko Windy. So she begins racing if you feed her once, and then when she's played, you look at the top card of your deck, you may put it on the bottom of your deck. So looking at the top card of your deck, even though you're not drawing, it's just like, all right, so I know I'm gonna draw next turn, or I don't need to see this right now, so I'm gonna put it at the bottom of my deck. Just seeing what's on the top of your deck and just peeking at it and controlling what's in your deck is very important. Because if you draw like a Rose Queen, it's not in this deck unfortunately, but I'm seeing Rose Queen on like turn one. I don't want to see that, so I'm gonna put it at the bottom of my deck, even though it is a boss monster that I want eventually. It's not something that I need, because you want to be more reactive sometimes in Shadowverse, and Forestcraft is kind of reactive in those early turns, so you really want to be very reactive. Next we have Ancient Elf. She's very good when it comes to the bounce effect, and she's a ward. So you put something back into your hand, give it +1/+1, and then when you Eva her, you do it again and then get another +1/+1. So we have Crystallia Lily. So this is one of the cards that came out of Reign of Bahamut. If you don't already know, you don't really use it for the fact of looking at the top two. You do it for the Evo to evolve and then get something out of the way, because one thing that Forestcraft lacks, even though you still have Elfchild May and you have wards, you don't have just straight up removal. With Crystallia Lily, the straight up removal is just, hey, I evolve her, put that on the bottom of your deck. There you go, boom, gone. You don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game because it's on the bottom of their deck. So I run that as a 2-of, and I think it's a perfect, balance. So Crystallia Lily as a 2-of. All right, and next up we have Marvelous Sunday. So she's one of the new cards that came out in Umo. So when she's played, you return another card from your field into its owner's hand, and then you give your leader +2 defense. So this is another bounce card that's very good. It actually heals you, so that's going to be good for Forestcraft. Forestcraft doesn't have any types of heal besides the Elf Healer and, the amulet, the one-drop amulet that, you play and you have to engage it to put it in the cemetery and draw a card. But Forestcraft doesn't really use it for that effect. You really want to put that amulet back into your hand just so you can draw a card and then you can do it again when you need to. So Marvelous Sunday is actually paired up with, Harvest Festival, and you play Harvest Festival turn one, and then you play Marvelous Sunday, put that back in your hand, draw another card, and then you heal 2. So that's a pretty good combo right there. And then we're rocking the 2-of Rhino Roach. So with the bouncing effect, we're going to be going into the late turns, and that's going to drive our combo up when we do those cards. We're going to be playing cards, and then we're going to ramp our combo up, especially in the later turns. And when we get into one of the new Uma cards, it's actually going to help out with Rhino Roach, because it's going to be an insanely cracked combo, and I'm excited to tell you guys about it. But Rhino Roach, you play him for the 2, and then he has that rush, and then he gains that +X for the amount of cards you've played this turn, and then you will evo him, and he has either that storm effect or the ping effect, so he has that versatility, just like Forestcraft ones. Alright, and the next card we have is Taiki Shuttle. So, you feed her once and then she'll begin racing. And when this card is returned to your hand from the field, you select the enemy following the field and deal it 2 damage. Alright, so this card is just basically the beefed up version of Elfchild May. I run it as a 1-of just for the extra reassurance of doing some damage, and especially with the bounce line in case I get, the Nature's Guidance and then have Taiki Shuttle in my hand. I can really, get it going there, especially against aggro. Next up, we have Ishin Flash. So when you feed her once, and then she'll begin racing. And when this follower begins racing, give it +1/+1, and it's like 1 enemy follower in the field and return it to its owner's hand. So basically, Uma has a Rose Gardener, and I'm just gonna replace it because that doesn't really hurt my Evo spots. It's really hand in hand what you really want to do. I think Ishin Flash is going to be the new version of it because she gets that 4/4 effect, and the rush. But it's basically hand in hand, except the combo 3. That's really the big difference. But I feel like she's gonna be, just new going forward, because it's just gonna be more accessible. Because Rose Gardener did come out in set 1, and as the sets come out, Rose Gardener isn't going to be as obtainable, but they basically really do the same thing. You just need the carrot in your evolved deck, and I think the carrot is pretty cute instead of looking at the Rose Gardener, so I feel like that's gonna be nice. Next, we have Yukino Bijin. So you feed her once and then she'll begin racing, and when she comes into play, you return another card on the field to your hand, and you give this follower +1/+1. So you have a 3-drop bounce card, just like Ancient Elf, and that's what the deck really is. You're going to be bouncing things, you're going to be swinging, you're going to be bouncing things, you're going to swing, and then you're going to bounce things, and you're going to swing. If your opponent doesn't deal with it, well, if you don't deal with it that next turn, I'm going to swing with it, and then I'm going to bounce it back in my hand. And that's what's going to lead us into our late game with, the Silver Bolt. And we're going to burn you for me bouncing my cards into my hand. And this next card we're going to talk about is really going to help when it comes to bouncing things and actually getting your combo up. And that card is Gold City. So you feed her once and then she'll begin racing. And if there are at least 8 total cards on the field, you give this follower Storm. But we really want what she has when you come into play. When she comes into play, you recover 3 play points. Do you know how ridiculous that is? She is a 4-drop. So basically, if you're on turn 4, she's going to cost a 1-drop. And that's nice. She's a 1-drop 3/3. But we really don't care about the stats besides the fanfare, because nothing's stopping her from coming into play. It's recovering the 3 play points. So in those later turns, when you're on turn 10, you played a 1-drop, and then you only played it for 1, and you recovered those 3 play points, and your combo is still going. And that's what cycles into our Rhino Roach and our other plays that require combo and require big things. You recover those play points, and you're like, all right, I played 1. That's 1 stack into what I want to do next. I have something on the field, and I've only paid for 1. And the fact that it's a 1-drop 3/3 is very, very good. Alright, and next up we have Silent Suzuka. So it's a 4-drop, you can evolve her for 2, and you can feed her once, and then she'll begin racing. And then she has Storm. So there's not many cards in Forestcraft that have Storm besides that giant wolf that's a 7 cost. But we don't like the fact that wolf has Storm, because his last words effect, is pretty... It's okay to get the followers off of the top, 7 or 5? I can't think of the number. I'm so sorry, guys. But it's a last words effect, but the Silent Suzuka is actually pretty good because she's a 4-drop with Storm, and you can get it out in the mid game, swing 4, swing some damage in. It's not as broken as Forte, but it's some damage, and that's really what you want. And the fact that the card that we're going to look at later on is there's a card in Forestcraft that actually lets you search out any follower with Storm, that being this card, and we'll look at the evolve when we get to it. And next up we have Robin Hood. So I feel like Robin Hood is very slept on. Not many people use it as much as they used to. I feel like Robin Hood is still a good card because, it can technically deal 8 to something, especially in those later turns. So you play Robin Hood, you deal 4 to something, and then you engage him, you deal another 4 to something else. Or, to the same follower if you have to do it, So, having 8 damage, the potential for 8 damage on the field is very good. And when Robin Hood's engaged, they're going to definitely focus on him because, dealing forward to something every time and then you possibly swinging at it or pinging it with your other guys, they're going to be afraid of that. So I'll rock that as a 2-of. Then we have the staple Nature's Guidance to bounce something back to our hand and then draw a card. We use this in, occurrence with Harvest Festival because it's very good. Alright, and let's look at the new card, Quick, Tasty, Fast, and it has 2 abilities. So you can choose one of the following effects. 1, search your deck for a follower with Storm and put it into your hand. Or 2, you can select the follower with Storm and give it +3 attack. So I like this fact for the fact that you can, make Rhino Roach even bigger off the evolve. So you see that it has Storm, you gave it Storm, it has that plus attack after you've already played it. And then, if you've had enough points, to do everything that you needed to do, you can, give it that +3 attack. If it's already at 6, it's going to 9. It's, it can really go for lethal and push for game if you want it to. So that's what I like. But with the other effect of searching for a follower with Storm, you're going to search out Silent Azuka. And you really want Silent Azuka because once we figure out what this evolve effect does, it'll definitely be worth it. You run the 1-of Execution just for the Leonidas resolve, removal and just aiming their removal and just straight up, removing a follower as a Quake timing as well. And then we run the 1-of Silverbolt. I would rock this as a 2-of personally. Like I said, this is just a template. I'm not the best Forestcraft player. I'm not even the best player, I can even think of, honestly. I'm not even going to toot my own horn or anything. This is just what I crafted myself and I wanted to share this with you guys. But the 1-of Silverbolt seems okay. I probably run 2 of it just so I can see it in the late game. But if you're drawing cards and bouncing cards and having the cards in hand, you're definitely going to be doing a lot of damage, especially that turn you want to Silverbolt, if you've been doing the bouncing correctly. So you run the 1-of Silverbolt or the 2-of, that's fine. But, you do it so you draw that card and then you burn them for, Xaxes if you need to. So the 2-of Harvest Festival. So in my last Forestcraft build, I had 3 Harvest Festivals, and sometimes you run a 1-3 and sometimes you run 1-2. Some people don't run them at all sometimes, but in this deck you run a 1 Harvest Festival so you can get that bounce effect, draw a card, or if you're in a situation where you need that extra 1 life and you're doing math like a genius, you can engage it and gain that 1 health and then draw a card is actually pretty nice. But I'm running as a 2-of because I don't want to see it too much. Even though, if you have 3 of it and you're bouncing it back to your hand, you're keeping the same Harvest Festival. So I don't think you need 3. Because if you draw 2 in your beginning hand and we only have 4 cards to start, that feels pretty bad. So I'm rocking the 2-of Harvest Festival. Now let's go ahead and get into the Evolve deck. So we have 2 of the Ancient Elf, just so that extra bounce and the extra beefy ward if we need it to be. We have the 1-of Bell Ringer, just so we can deal with that aggro and get into those later turns. We rock the 2-of Crystalia Lily, just for the removal. And then we rock the 1-of Rhino Roach, because you're only going to use Rhino Roach when you're ending the game. And then we have 2 of the new Silent Azuka Evolve. So it still has Storm when it's evolved, but you select enemy following field and put it on the top of its owner's deck. So, you did the 4-drop, you played it as Storm, and then when you evolved it, you added removal to it too. So there's tons of more removal that's been added into Forestcraft, and I enjoy it so much. And this isn't the optimal list for a controlled Forestcraft build. I know traditionally there's been Rose Queen just to burn you for Xaxes, but this is definitely it's not Havencraft in terms of control, but it's definitely bouncing cards back to their hand. It's pinging them for 2, the small guys for 2, keeping the wards up, and then if you've been swinging with those guys and doing your bouncing correctly, you can swing Rhino Roach or you can burn them for Xaxes depending on what matchup you're going up against. Well, alright guys, this is the deck. I appreciate you guys for listening, and make sure you're safe in whatever you do tonight, and make sure you're safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I gave you all my love, baby, my heart is cold when you're around. You warm it up, liquid gold, baby, yeah, you warm it up, liquid gold, baby, and my affection, all that paper you wasted. Take my love.